Hello, nonprofit leaders, and welcome to your go-to place for information and inspiration to help you be even more effective. I'm your host, Mary Hiland, and you're listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. My guest for this episode is Cami Baker, an entrepreneur since the age of 8. Selling gum to other kids, and then the loan sharking of the profits to other kids at high interest while holding collateral. This is just the beginning of her career with business strategy. Her success in real estate, from appearing twice on HGTV and being in the top 5% of realtors, to all the hundreds of fundraising campaigns in her career, led Cami to discover the most unique, untapped fundraising and business development strategy ever. Cami has created a way for your nonprofit to tap this untapped asset and 6 times your donations with zero marketing budget. Join us listening to this conversation as she shares why 99% of nonprofits aren't leveraging this asset and how you can be part of the $9 billion a year funding that will soon become $29 billion a year, that resource. Cami, welcome. My goodness.
Well, thank you. You know, when you're reading that, I'm like, it's true. It's all true. And that's not even my research. That came from Dr. Russell James.
Yeah. No, I love, I'll mention that, you've been on the podcast before, but this is such a critical topic and something I think it's just great to talk about again as a very important resource that is untapped. So what is this untapped asset and why is it so untapped?
Let me just say, I know that all sounds too good to be true. How can you possibly 6 times your funding with no marketing budget and tap into $9 to $29 billion? But friends, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. 100 years ago, the US government put into place this thing called a tax deduction. And not only do people get great tax deductions from cash, but they get even bigger tax deductions from real estate. Now, don't let that stop you from listening further, because I promise you, this is not the old, risky, hard, time-consuming, cash draining real estate donation that you've heard of in the past. We actually have a really simple way that makes it risk-free and no money out of pocket for the nonprofit world to tap into 43% of the wealth in this country, which is real estate.
Wow. So why is it untapped in your experience?
Every nonprofit leader, I'm so glad that's who we're talking to today. Every one of them could answer that question for you. And the answer is because it sounds risky, because there are horror stories of nonprofits who took real estate and it went sideways, because they have it written in their bylaws that they don't take real estate. All these things have 99% of the 1.5 million nonprofits not only not asking for real estate, but actually turning it away when it is offered. And because of all that, it's just become a taboo. Either they've absolutely never heard of it before because it's just not something that they're taught at fundraising school, or they have heard of it, but what they've heard has been scary. And it's all true stuff. But, there was one point where we all called yellow cab and somebody got smart and created this thing called Uber. So in other words, things evolve. Things change. People have good ideas that enhances and makes things better. I remember my mother had a satellite dish that was 10 feet across in her yard, It got better over time. So has charitable gifting of real estate.
Okay, so I want to ask you a couple questions about this to drill down a little bit. One is, what are the risks? I'm not, we're not promoting the risks. We're really saying we've overcome those. But what are the risks that nonprofits think about or assume are going to happen when they're dealing with a real estate donation?
You know, the biggest one is, oh my goodness, what if it's contaminated, or what if it doesn't sell? In other words, what if this thing becomes an albatross? What if it
Oh,
really is too good to be true? Why is this person giving us real estate? What's wrong with
wrong
it?
with it.
And to take that another step, oh my goodness, what about my reputation? What's going to happen to my career, to my good standing in the community, if I say, yes, let's take this real estate, and then it is contaminated, or it doesn't sell, and it bankrupts the nonprofit? Friends, I've heard it all. There are stories
Mhm.
to back that up, but that's why this is different, because the way we do it, your nonprofit never takes title. You're so far removed from the transaction that you don't even need to know the address if you don't want to. How can you possibly have liability to something if you don't even know the address? That's how far removed you can be.
Wow. So you don't even take title. So I've got so many questions about this. So why would someone, I mean, real estate is not cheap. I'm in California. We all know how expensive real estate is here. Let's help people understand, why would someone want to, I mean, is it just about taxes? Why would someone want to donate real estate?
I just had the most beautiful interview today with a gentleman who donated a building. And let me share his story. For
That would
example,
be great.
he's a doctor. He has a heart for homeless. He also was getting into real estate. He'd been buying real estate and adding to his portfolio. He came across this building in downtown St. Paul that was a 8-story, 120,000 square foot big office building. It went up for auction. He calls his business partner in real estate, says, hey, this building's going up for auction. They're probably, if you had to build this thing, it would be 15 million. Let's offer 500, 600. It's going to get bid up into the millions, but we'll offer it. They go to the auction. They're the only bidder there. They end up with this building for $600,000.
Wow.
So they thought they were going to do their own nonprofit. They wanted to help with the homeless situation and other things that they're passionate about. Long story short, they get the building appraised. It appraises for $4 million. He's got 5 children. His 2 boys, he's riding around showing these kids real estate. This is important. 2 little boys, his 11-year-old, he's showing them real estate. He's always talking about real estate with his kids, teaching them. And he's talking about having this building, wanting to do something, nonprofit so hard. His 11-year-old looks up from his laptop and says, why don't you just donate it, Daddy? So he never thought of that. So he ends up donating it to, he looks to lots of nonprofits. He ends up donating it. And so the moral of the story is, he donated it first and foremost because he's philanthropic and it was the right thing for him to do. Because he also got an offer to sell it for $4 million. But for
Wow.
him, he was philanthropic. It was the right thing to do. Secondly, when you're able to write off $4 million from your adjusted gross income, on top of not paying capital gains and lots of other tax consequences, he actually came out ahead.
Wow.
700,000 he paid, but the taxes that he saved put him ahead of the game. So we just don't know everybody's situation. We are not saying that everybody's going to have such a clean break and actually come out ahead like this doctor.
Right.
But the fact is, there are tens of thousands of people right now in their 70s and 80s that have real estate and they cannot take it through the pearly gates. They just can't. It is going to get liquidated. And
Mm-hmm.
friends, their family does not want an office building in Birmingham like the one that was donated last week to the Scott Dawson Evangelistic Association. The families don't want it.
Wow.
They need to liquidate it. And why not give the proceeds to your nonprofit?
Wow. So if a nonprofit was interested in this, how would they go about finding out about it? how would an executive director learn about what their steps should be, or how they should think about, how would I tap into this opportunity?
Well, first and foremost, if they're even thinking that, congratulations, we're getting past how we've always done it and how we used to do it. So let's step into this new conversation.
Mhm.
The fact is that your nonprofit, now, if you want real estate, if you're like the Scott Dawson group who needed a 200,000 square foot training facility to move into and do your business out of, great. But most of you don't want a building like that. You just want the cash. So when come to us, we'll teach you how to do it without taking title. We have made arrangements with a handful of what we call specialized nonprofits who actually take title. That's what they do. So if the Boys and Girls Club was created to help boys and girls after school, and the Veterans Group was created to feed the veterans, these nonprofits are created to take real estate on behalf of any and all nonprofits. They take title, they pay off mortgages, they put their name on the dotted line, not you. And because they're a 501c3, it gives your donor the tax benefit that they're looking for. And once this 501c3 takes title, donor is made whole, they've got their tax benefit, and now they liquidate the property and give your nonprofit the proceeds that the donor wants you to have. It's really that simple.
Wow. Oh, wonderful. Wow. So to have that other nonprofit be, it makes so much difference to think about it that way, because it's not between you and the owner of the real estate. It's between you and a colleague who understands exactly what you're doing as a nonprofit or trying to do to work on your behalf. So that sounds really good.
To take that one step further, Mary, of the 1.5 million nonprofits, the largest, the biggest, the one that manages more money than any other nonprofit in this country is Fidelity Charitables. They're a donor advised fund, and that's a whole other episode. But the point is, as far as 501c3s go, they're the biggest. They don't even want to do their own real estate. Even they use the same team that we do. So in other words, if it's good enough for the biggest nonprofit in this country, all the way down to the smallest, Habitat for Humanity, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, ALS community. I'm just thinking of the different logos I've seen, churches, public radio, public TV. As a matter of fact, there's a group out there right now that is promoting on public radio and public TV how you can donate real estate to help the public radio and public TV. So in other words, lots of groups are starting to realize, we have our handout for cash, but that's just 3% of the wealth in this country. That's the pocket change that people have left over. Why not tap in to the untapped asset? 43% of our wealth is in real estate. So some of them are just getting smart and starting to actually let people know, hey, we can benefit from real estate. Now, notice I said we can benefit from real estate, not we take real estate. We are not advocating for your nonprofit to start taking real estate. It is risky. It is cumbersome. You can mess that up big time. But just like every nonprofit has a credit card processing company, you go to the donate button and you put in your credit card and they get the proceeds. They don't process the credit card, somebody else does. So what we've done is we've added the second button, donate real estate. Click that button and let somebody else process real estate, just like somebody else processes your credit card.
Okay. We're going to pause for a second and hear from our sponsor, but we're going to come back and explore this more. So today's episode is being brought to you by Hiland Consulting, which I created to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders. I want to help you unleash your full potential to advance the missions you care about so deeply. I've been an executive director, board member, and now I'm a consultant and coach. I know your challenges firsthand, and I want to bring you information, inspiration, encouragement, and support so you can have the greatest possible impact. The gift I have for you today is a board orientation checklist. You know that one of the most important ways you're going to ensure that you can have a board you love is by orienting them effectively. The checklist gives you information about what you should be considering in the content of your orientation, but also the process of your orientation. To grab that, you can go to hilandconsulting.org/board orientation checklist. That's Hiland Consulting, spelled HILAND, consulting.org/board orientation checklist. And there'll also be a link in the show notes. So I'm back and I'm speaking with Cami Baker about nonprofits and donations of real estate, how not to take them directly, but how to get the benefit of those. So what would you say to people about how to begin to think about doing this?
If you really care about those that you serve, and I know you do, that's why you do what you do every day. You can read the research that Dr. James has done that proves that when nonprofits are only taking cash, they grow at 11% the rate. When they step into benefiting from non-cash assets, they grow at 66% the rate.
Wow.
So if someone wanted to donate stocks or business interest, there are companies that do that. If someone wanted to donate cryptocurrency or gold, there are companies that do that. So while we are thinking, cash is great, but what if the car show gets rained out? What if the golf tournament? What if there's another pandemic? What if it doesn't happen? If you're open to exploring creative ways, and not something that's just been invented. This has been around since 1917. $9 billion a year does make its way to nonprofits this way. It's just a matter of being coachable and listening and just learning something that you just aren't familiar with. That's all. And people that have been in nonprofit and fundraising for a long time, there's something you don't know too. I'm just going to say it. And it is this way of doing this that is risk-free for you. And we are happy to provide that information free. We want you to know how this works. And you can go find all the donors you want without our help. We'll help you facilitate it. Just ask, we'll tell you.
Well, what about finding these donors? How would you go about finding people? I mean, is that working with you to find people who want to donate real estate and want a good match? Or how do you see that playing out?
You know, this is the $600,000 question. And I say 600,000 because, friends, that is the average donation for one gift of real estate. So I want to say a couple of things about that. First of all, who we're looking for are cash conservative and asset abundant. That does not mean that they're multimillionaires. It doesn't mean that it's Mackenzie Scott. It could be someone who has donated $20 to your nonprofit. Now, I know that's hard to believe, but we have story after story in our case studies. One woman named Linda that was donating $25 to her nonprofit for 32 years, 25 bucks a year. She learned she could donate real estate. She had a second house. It was a cabin in the Poconos that she'd had for decades. Her family left it to her, and she wanted to do more. She needed a tax deduction. She didn't want to deal with the property. It was easier for her to just hand it over. And so she was cash conservative and she was asset abundant with that one cabin. And we promise you, there are people in your donor list right now that are asset abundant, and you would never know because you've never asked them. You've never had this conversation. So believe it or not, they are in your donor list. And then there's other places like financial advisors have them, realtors, past clients have them, your board Your board knows them. So we're happy to help you with that. But that's what this button is for. When you put this button on your website and you have a landing page that explains what your nonprofit would do with an extra 600,000 and how simple the process is and the tax benefits to the donor, that's how you find the donors, by educating them that they can. Give them the gift of choice on Giving Tuesday.
Okay. So executive directors are listening. What do you want them to do? What's the first step? Is it reaching out to you? Is it having a conversation maybe with their board members first to educate them? What's really the first step for someone who's just beginning to think about this?
Well, it's definitely to become educated, for sure. And, you know, not to toot our own horn, but we are the only organization in the country that's teaching how this works. We can Google charitable gifts of real estate and we can see what document goes to the IRS and what the tax benefits are to the donor. And our friend Jim Wooten wrote the book Real Estate Gift back in 2006. If you want to learn how to take real estate yourself, get Jim's book. It's fabulous. What we're saying is that's all well and good, but if you want to learn how to do it without taking title, without any risk,
right?
We have a free giveaway for that too. But just educate yourself. Please don't go talk to your board without one of us with you, because if you talk to your board, they're going to say things like, I tried that 28 years ago, it doesn't work. I know a nonprofit that took a piece of real estate and they still can't get rid of it 10 years ago. We have it written in our bylaws that we don't take real estate. Roadblock, roadblock, roadblock. Friends, none of that matters. It has nothing to do with the way we do it.
Okay. So what's important then is for people to learn about how to connect with you so they can take advantage of the education, and you do have a giveaway. So there's some information out there. Before we get into those specifics, is there anything else you want to say to the audience that we haven't covered about this?
Yes. I like to get myself out of the way. I'm not for everyone, and this isn't the Cami show. I want you to learn. You can always reach out to Dr. Russell James himself directly. He's on LinkedIn, and he is the foremost authority on philanthropy, on teaching estate planning to financial advisors. He teaches nonprofits words that work and how to talk to your donors about stuff like this. If you reach out to him, tell him The Rock sent you, he'll send you 100 research items and videos and books and PDFs, and you can do all that research. And then at the end of the day, when you're ready to take action, we're very happy to help. And we've got plenty of free resources.
Okay. So when you say The Rock, you're not talking about ROCK here.
No, we are the Real Agents of Change, and the acronym is RAOC for the Real Agent of Change. So it's The Rock. We've kind of become known as The Rock, the rock stars, rock on, rock and roll, you know, that sort of thing.
whatever. So in addition to exploring Dr. Russell James, then your giveaway, tell the audience about that.
We have been saying for years, just create a second button. Just put some stuff on your website. But it was really clear. I mean, we talked to marketing companies that had no idea how to do it. So what we've done is we've created the button. Now, to get you started, we have some copy that you can copy and paste right to your website. We've got a 10-point checklist of the 10 places to find donors of real estate. We've got a 30-second video that you can get and put wherever you want on social media, a couple of other pieces of collateral. So therock.com, the way that we just spelled it, RAOC.com/nonprofit kit. That's where you can go for the major funding beginner kit to get all that stuff for free. And then if you do want some help with this, look, you know, we are like the peace sign. The peace sign was created in the 60s by a gentleman who was brought in to create it. He created that peace sign and he did not trademark it. He wanted people to use it. We want you to use this information. We want you to tell your donors, hey, by the way, we can also benefit from real estate. That's all you got to do. We can help you talk to them if you want.
Right. Well, great. I mean, it sounds like there's wonderful resources. People don't have to just be out there wondering now what they do, that they should go get this kit and learn more from you about what this opportunity is. I mean, it's just, there's so much money sitting there. I just can't imagine that people wouldn't want to make an effort to do this. So it's just so interesting. And then if there's people out there who have real estate they want to get rid of, what's the best way? Let's flip this a little bit before we end the conversation. If someone out there is listening and they have real estate they would be interested in donating, what's the best first step for them?
Well, it depends on if they are, are you just looking for a tax deduction? Are you just wanting to help your nonprofit? I say that tongue in cheek because both of those are very important.
Mhm.
And the good news is you get both when you donate the real estate. So we have a property valuation form. If they want to fill that out, we take a look at it. If the property qualifies as a gift of real estate, because there needs to be equity. If there's no equity, there's nothing to give.
Right, of
So
course.
we're happy. Yeah, we're happy to answer their basic questions. Now, a donor, you definitely want to talk to your CPA, your attorney, your financial advisor. But when you talk to them, let them know that you found a way that you can give the proceeds to any nonprofit, even the ones who have it in their bylaws that they don't take real estate. They've already told you they don't take real estate. They don't want your real estate. That's okay. They're not going to get the real estate. They're going to get the proceeds. They're going to get the equity from your real estate, and we're going to make sure that happens.
Great, great. Well, Cammie, I think we covered all the bases on this. If there's anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
I just want to say, friends, this is happening. This isn't something we are trying to put together. This isn't pro forma or some grand delusion of maybe people will donate. It's happening. It's happening every day. There's another story, 9 billion a year. And Dr. James and other experts are saying because 43% of our wealth is in real estate, it can easily go to 29 billion a year, not one time, a year. So please don't let your nonprofit miss out just because you've never heard of this before.
Right. Well, now you have heard of it. So thank
You're going to keep
Cammie.
hearing about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is such an important topic and such an exciting topic. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your wisdom and the free gifts and how people can get started if they choose to do that. So thanks so much.
The more funding they bring in, the more they can hire experts like you to help them do other things they need to do, like get organized and oriented, right?
Right. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, our listeners, for all that you're doing in the community to make it better for everyone. Take care of yourselves. And be sure to listen into the next episode of Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Until then, all the best. Hey, wow, that's so
Wonderful.
Good. Yeah.
If you can share with me the Zoom recording, I'm happy to have it put on, blasted all over our social media, get you some more exposure. I mean, we can do just the audio as well, but we're all about visual, so we'll put the whole thing out there.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. I recorded it on the web, so I'll figure out how to upload that. And I will
stop recording.
Yeah, we're recording now. Yeah, so I have it tentatively scheduled to release on October 12th, so it will be relatively soon. Not months out. And I will let you know, they always release on a Thursday morning. So I will let you know ahead of time if it's coming out, if my editor got it done and we're ready to go. and then you can share that. But in the meantime, I'm happy to share the Zoom link with you because, that won't be edited, but I'll be able to send it out to you right away. So
Sure. Awesome. We'll get it out. And, I'd like to return the favor and actually interview you for the Real Agents of Change, because we have people learning about, when it comes to donated real estate, there are nonprofits that watch. So, and of course, financial advisors and attorneys and realtors, and they all know nonprofits. So maybe there's something there for you too.
yeah, well, let me know what you think I would have to offer in that regard, and love to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't we get it scheduled and we'll get it recorded next week? How does that work for
Oh
you?
my goodness. Okay, let me look.
Or would you rather push it off a little bit? I know it's
I
kind
need
of,
to push it off a little bit. Yeah, we talked about that giveaway that I know isn't something that you want to do, but I've got a lot of people contacting me about that, so my schedule's really, really full. But
well,
what
why
are
don't
we talking about in terms of now? Where are you located? Because I don't think we're in the same time zone.
I'm in Florida. I'm in East Coast time.
Okay, so I'm in California. So what are we talking about in terms of how long you need me? And
15 minutes. We try to keep them
that's
short.
easy.
We'll just talk about, so we're the Real Agents of Change, and we talk, typically we talk about what would a nonprofit do with $600,000, or we interview the different people around it. Perhaps you can talk about what nonprofits are needing. What would the typical nonprofit do with that kind of money to get better organized, to bring in better board members, like however you want to spend that, so that, if a nonprofit were to get this type of funding, what would a company like yours consult them to do with it? How could you better allocate those funds?
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. I may actually cut back a little bit, but I think that I could certainly talk about, planning for their own mission, but also I think the key thing would be to encourage people when they have the opportunity to get that amount of money, to encourage them to think about building their infrastructure, really looking at, a lot of nonprofits focus their money on the programs and services, which is important, but they shortchange the administration, frankly, and they think, oh, if we spend money on administration, people think that's bad. So that's an important message. And part of that is bringing in people to better educate the board, programs, that I do have that allow people to do that ongoing without having to bring me in the room and things like that. So
There
yeah,
you go. Because they need to know that they are a business. People think nonprofit is not a business, but they're a business too. And if they don't address their infrastructure, they won't have a structure.
That's right. Well, how about would Thursday morning, October 5th, say around, if it was 10 o'clock my time, that would be 1
o'clock my time.
your time.
How about 1:30? How about 1:30 my time, 10:30 your time?
That would work.
Okay.
So I'll just put 10:30, and that's you. And I assume you'll just send me a link, or?
Yes, I will.
Great.
My Zoom interview 1:30 p.m. Okay, we'll be done in 30 minutes. I'll go ahead and send you the Zoom link now, and you can just go ahead and put it wherever you put it, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Thank you for your time today, and I'll
You're welcome. Thank you.
next week.
You take care.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.